I can't believe it happened. After 5 long years of giving everything I had, my boss fired me for being 5 minutes late. Want more? Please like and drop a comment, and don't subscribe to the YouTube channel for more revenge stories like this. Her name is Jessica. She's 33 years old, and she spent most of her life working harder than anyone else. It all started on a cold Monday morning in Falcon Heights Estates. Jessica woke up before dawn, brewed her coffee, and set off to the office. She had been pulling 70 hours a week for months, staying late on reports, handling client calls at midnight, and missing every weekend barbecue. People admired her work, but her boss, Mr. Wallace, never did. Jessica's alarm didn't go off that day. She bolted awake, heart pounding, to see her clock read 3 a.m. She threw on her clothes and raced out the door. When she arrived at the tall glass building at 8:15 a.m., she found Mr. Wallace waiting outside his office. "I'm so sorry," she panted. "My alarm didn't ring. I got here as fast as I could." He stared at her with cold eyes. 5 minutes late is 5 minutes late, Jessica," he said, tapping a file on his desk. "You're fired." Her mouth fell open. Fired? For 5 minutes? After all those nights, she skipped dinner with her sister. After every weekend she spent catching up on work? She felt her chest tighten, but she swallowed her fear and said, "Please, sir, you know I work hard. Isn't there any warning? Any chance?" He shook his head. "Company policy. You know the rules. Turn in your badge by noon or I call security." She left the building, badge in hand, her shoes clicking against the marble floor. Outside, the autumn wind hit her face, as if the world itself was angry. Her phone buzzed with a message from her friend Olivia. How did it go? Jessica stared at it, tears welling up. She didn't answer. That night was a low moment. She sat alone in her small apartment in Falcon Heights Estates, the one she'd paid for on her own. Dinner was a peanut butter sandwich and lukewarm tea. She stared at the TV, but nothing felt real. How could a boss be so cruel? A week passed. Job applications piled up, but no one called. Her savings started to shrink. Every morning, she scrolled through happy posts of former coworkers posting about promotions. "You'll bounce back," they said. But she felt trapped, angry. Then, one morning, she got a mysterious email. "I can help you make him regret this." The sender was unknown, but a link led to a private forum. She hesitated, then clicked. Inside, stories of bosses who'd mistreated good workers. Tips on letter writing, on small pranks, on social media campaigns. She scrolled late into the night. A low point came when she tried coffee shop trial shifts. She spilled lattes, tripped over her apron, and the manager frowned. Each failure stung worse than the last, but she remembered her old fire. Jessica decided she wouldn't beg for pity. She would plan something that would teach Mr. Wallace and everyone to be kind to people who give their all. First, she studied his schedule. He always left at 6, never earlier. She found out his key habits: a daily stop at Willow Bend Diner for a late dinner, and his pride in a fancy car, the kind with a bright chrome grille. She took notes every day for 2 weeks. When the car left the garage, which parking spot he used, even when he wore a black tie or a blue one. Then came the high point. An idea struck her. If he had to face a taste of his own medicine, maybe he'd learn a lesson. She ordered a custom bumper sticker reading, "I'm late, but I work hard," with a cartoon clock showing 5 minutes past 8. It was clever, funny, and it would humiliate him just enough. One night, she stayed hidden behind a hedge in the parking lot. She waited until his car glowed under the streetlight, then crept up and slapped the sticker hard on his bumper. Her heart pounded so loud she was sure he'd hear it from inside the diner. She hopped into her car and sped away before anyone noticed. The next morning, the office buzzed. Someone had spotted his car and filmed the sticker. It went viral in the local office network. "Boss forgot who works hard. Check this out." Emails flew. Mr. Wallace stormed and red-faced, demanding to know who did it. Jessica sat at her desk, heart in her throat. He glared at everyone, but he had no proof. Then he did something extreme. He posted an all-staff email with security footage from the parking lot. My face was in it, right when I stuck the sticker on his car. My whole plan exploded in front of everyone. I froze, watching his email arrive on my screen. My colleagues stared. Some giggled, some frowns. And then came the worst part. Mr. Wallace wrote, "Jessica Smith, you have crossed the line. Expect a call from HR." Jessica's heart pounded as her phone rang. The screen showed Human Resources. She swallowed hard and answered. "Jessica Smith?" a calm voice asked. "This is Karen from HR. We need to discuss the security footage you've been sent." Her throat went dry. "Yes, hello. Please come to the HR office at 3 p.m. today," Karen said. "We'll review next steps." She clicked off before Jessica could reply. The office chatter felt loud now. Her co-workers stole glances. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears as she walked down the hallway. In the HR office, Karen closed the door. "Jessica, we understand you were upset about your firing," she began. "But vandalizing company property is serious. You could face legal action." Jessica's stomach twisted. Legal action? She imagined bail, court, a mark on her record. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I just wanted him to see how it felt." Karen's eyes were gentle but firm. "We have video evidence. Mr. Wallace wants the police involved. But HR can handle this internally if you agree to an apology and a fine of $200 for the sticker removal, plus $50 for cleanup." Jessica closed her eyes. $250 she didn't have. Her savings were almost gone. I accept." Karen slid a form across the desk. Jessica signed without reading. She left feeling heavy, like she carried a boulder in her chest. That afternoon, Jessica stayed late. She needed extra hours to pay the fine. She volunteered to file old reports and sort mail. The building emptied, lights clicking off. She sat alone under a buzzing fluorescent bulb. Her fingers trembled as she stamped envelopes. Every stamp felt like a reminder. She'd lost control. At home, she counted her dwindling money. Rent, $1,200. Groceries, $150. Fine, $250. After bills, only $30 remained. She made instant noodles for dinner. The apartment felt cold and empty. For days, she avoided the old forum. She didn't want more trouble, but loneliness crept in and guilt festered. She missed feeling capable, proud. One morning, she saw an alert on LinkedIn. Mr. Wallace had posted a success story about team loyalty. He praised employees who show up on time and follow rules. He attached a photo of his gleaming car without the sticker. Her chest tightened. He'd erased the sticker, but he won. He'd spun the story so he looked like the hero. She closed her laptop with a snap. That image would haunt her. He was telling everyone she was the bad one. She felt small, shamed. A less extreme event followed. One evening, while walking home through Falcon Heights Estates, she saw children playing in a park. A little girl dropped her ice cream. The mother scolded her for being clumsy. The girl's tears reminded Jessica of her own tears the day she was fired. She sat on a bench and watched parents rush by, too busy for their kids. A father jogged with headphones. A mother talked on the phone. Nobody helped the girl. Jessica stood and offered the little girl her napkin. The mother thanked her, eyes softening. The girl smiled shyly. Jessica's heart brightened. She realized revenge gave no real victory. It only hurt. Kindness mattered more. Helping the girl felt better than any prank. But that moment of warmth shattered the next morning. When Jessica arrived at her temp job at Clearwater Solutions, she found a letter on her desk. The heading read, "Legal Notice." Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside, bold letters spelled out a lawsuit filed by Wallace Industries. He was suing her for damages, defamation, and emotional distress. The total claim, $50,000. She dropped the letter. The office spun. Her chest clenched. She had no idea how she'd fight this. As her vision blurred, she realized the stakes were higher now than ever before. Jessica sat on the edge of her bed, the legal notice clutched in her trembling hand. Her room felt small and tight, as if the walls were closing in. The words $50,000 burned in her mind. How could he ask for so much? She folded the paper and stared at the ceiling. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. She thought of her quiet apartment in Falcon Heights Estates. It had been her safe place after the firing. Now it felt like a trap. She paced back and forth, running her fingers through her hair. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest like a drum. She needed help. The next morning, she called her friend Olivia. Olivia answered with a cheerful voice, unaware of the storm. "Olivia," Jessica whispered, her voice shaking. "I need your help." Olivia listened as Jessica told her about the lawsuit. When Jessica finished, Olivia said, "I'm so sorry. I'll be there in 20 minutes." 20 minutes later, Olivia burst through the door with 2 cups of coffee. She hugged Jessica tightly. "I've got your back," she said. "We'll figure this out." Jessica wiped her eyes. She took a sip of coffee and felt the warmth spread through her. It was the first comfort she had felt in days. Olivia suggested they visit the community legal aid clinic. It was a small office not far from Jessica's apartment. The clinic helped people who could not pay for a lawyer. Jessica had never needed help like this before. She felt scared, but also a spark of hope. Inside the clinic, they sat in a waiting room with soft chairs and a fish tank. Jessica watched the tiny fish swim in circles. It was peaceful, almost like a dream. Finally, a woman with kind eyes called her name. "Jessica Smith?" she asked. Jessica nodded and followed her to a small office. The woman closed the door and smiled. "I'm Laura. I'll help you today." Laura listened to Jessica's story. She wrote notes on a pad of paper. Her pen moved quickly but carefully. "You have a defense," she said at last. "Mr. Wallace acted unreasonably. We can fight this lawsuit." Jessica let out a shaky breath. "But I don't have any money," she said. Laura nodded. "That is why you are here. We work for free. It might take time, but we can help." That afternoon, Jessica left the clinic with a folder of papers. Olivia walked with her to the bus stop. The sun was warm on her face. She felt lighter than she had in days. For the first time, she believed she might win. Over the next week, Jessica met Laura twice. They filled out forms and gathered evidence. Jessica found old emails from Mr. Wallace praising her work. She showed letters from clients who said she helped them solve big problems. Each piece of paper became another brick in her wall of defense. Meanwhile, she went to her temp job at Clearwater Solutions. Work felt strange now. She typed reports with shaking fingers. Her boss at the temp agency, Ms. Reed, called her in for a quick talk. "Jessica, I heard about the lawsuit," Ms. Reed said gently. "Don't worry. I'll cover for you if you need time in court." Jessica blinked back tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Walking back to her desk, she felt a mix of fear and relief. Fear for the trial, relief that someone cared. She realized small acts of kindness could lift her up. It gave her strength. One afternoon, Jessica stopped at the park where she had helped the little girl. A gentle breeze moved the leaves. She watched the playground and remembered her own sadness there. Now she had a plan, a purpose. She whispered to herself, "I won't let him break me." Then came a less extreme event. One Saturday, Olivia dragged her to a pottery class at the community center. "Trust me," Olivia said with a grin. "It will help you calm down." Jessica sat at a clay wheel, her hands covered in wet clay. Laura's words and the lawsuit felt distant. She shaped a small bowl, focusing on every smooth curve. Every spin of the wheel was like one small victory over her fear. When the class ended, She held up her bowl. It was rough and uneven, but perfect in its own way. She smiled. "Thank you," she told Olivia. That night, she placed the bowl on her bedside table. It reminded her that she could create good things, even when life was hard. But the calm did not last. The next morning, she opened her email to find a message with no subject. She clicked it and froze. The sender was a lawyer at Wallace Industries. Attached was a court date, July 15th, 2025. She had 2 weeks to prepare. The email said she must appear in the county courthouse at 10 a.m. Her chest tightened. 2 weeks. She barely had enough time to finish her evidence and prepare her defense. She glanced at the calendar on her wall. Each day was marked with a dot, days she had meetings at the clinic. Now, that dot on July 15th felt like a boulder. Jessica called Laura immediately. Laura's calm voice on the phone faltered slightly when she heard the date. "That is soon," Laura said. "We will need more time. I will file a motion to postpone." Jessica felt a drop of hope again, but she also felt the weight of the clock ticking. She started to sleep less, waking up in the night thinking of courtrooms and judges. When she was awake, she typed on her laptop, writing a statement of her own. She practiced explaining why Mr. Wallace was wrong to sue her. One evening, her neighbor, Mr. Patel, knocked on her door. He was a quiet man who always smiled and said hello. "Jessica," he said softly, "I found this on your doorstep." He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a gift card for $100 to the grocery store with a note, "For what it is worth, I believe in you. A friend." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Mr. Patel, who nodded and walked away. She held the card tightly. She felt not alone. But just as she started to feel surrounded by friends, the next extreme event struck. That same night, she heard a loud knock at her door. She answered to find 2 uniformed officers standing on her porch. They held a black folder. "Jessica Smith?" one officer asked. She nodded, her voice caught in her throat. "You are being served a subpoena for contempt of court," the officer said. "You failed to appear for your deposition today at the courthouse." Jessica's world spun. She had missed a deposition? She thought meeting with Laura was enough. She had assumed they would handle it. Now she faced contempt charges on top of the lawsuit. She felt the room tilt beneath her feet. The officers handed her the papers and left. Jessica stood frozen as the door clicked shut. She sank to the floor, clutching the subpoena. Her phone buzzed with messages from Laura. "We tried to file the motion." The judge denied it without notice. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her heart pounded so loud it hurt. She felt trapped between 2 terrible threats: the $50,000 lawsuit and now the risk of jail time for contempt. She looked at her small bowl on the table. The rough clay felt like her life, shaped by her hands but also fragile. She didn't know how to move forward. Every plan she made seemed to crumble. Her phone lit up with a single text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the old train station tonight at 9 p.m. I have a way out." Jessica stared at the message. The old train station was dark and abandoned. She didn't know who texted her or why they knew her name, but she felt a spark of curiosity. Could this be the help she needed? Or was it another trap? She knew one thing. She could not stay in her apartment and wait. She had to choose: face the danger at the courthouse or step into the unknown at the train station. Her hands shook as she typed back, "I'll be there." She hit send and felt her breath catch in her throat. Tonight at 9 p.m., everything would change. Jessica stood under the flickering street lamp at the old train station, heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. The whistle of a distant freight train echoed through the empty platform. Shadows stretched long and thin, and the only sound besides her own breathing was the soft scuff of her shoes on cracked concrete. Exactly 9 p.m., a figure stepped out from behind an abandoned freight car. It was Mr. Patel, her kindly neighbor, with his coat collar turned up against the night air. You came, he said quietly. Jessica nodded, swallowing hard. Who is this? How do you know me? Mr. Patel held out a small USB drive. Your new friend left this for you, he said. I got your note. He gestured to the text message on her phone. I want to help. She took the drive, fingers trembling. What is it? Evidence, he replied. I've been listening. Mr. Wallace isn't just vindictive. He's broken laws firing you without cause. He's fired others the same way. I recorded meetings where he admits he wants to freeze out anyone who questions him. Jessica's breath caught. Why risk this for me? He shrugged. Because nobody should be bullied like that. And because your little bowl reminded me kindness matters. They stood together under the lamp, the USB like a lifeline in her hand. Then Mr. Patel said, Tomorrow's your hearing, right? Bring this. Her chest tightened. Okay. Thank you. He nodded, melted back into shadow, and was gone. Jessica stayed a moment, the wind whipping her hair. Her phone buzzed, a text from Laura. We got your motion to postpone denied. Hearing stands at 10 a.m. tomorrow. She wrapped her coat tight and walked home, the USB heavy in her pocket. That night, she hardly slept. She backed up the file on her laptop, watching transcripts where Mr. Wallace laughed about ruining careers. She printed every page and organized them alongside her old emails and client letters. The morning of the hearing, Jessica arrived at the county courthouse in her best suit, one she'd borrowed from Olivia. Her hands shook as she set her folder on the wooden counsel desk. Ms. Reed from the temp agency sat in the front row, giving her a reassuring nod. Olivia and Laura filled the seats behind her. Judge Carver entered, stern and gray-haired, and called the session to order. Mr. Wallace sat at the plaintiff's table, face pale. His lawyer glared at Jessica, but stayed silent. When it was her turn, Jessica stood and spoke clearly. Your Honor, Mr. Wallace's actions went beyond company policy. I was fired for showing up 5 minutes late, after 70 hours of work per week. Then he sued me for $50,000. I have here evidence of his own admissions that he fires anyone he dislikes and covers it up. She placed the USB drive on the table. The court technician plugged it into a laptop. On the large screen, a recorded meeting played, Mr. Wallace saying, I don't care if they're good. If they question me, they go. His voice was cold, confident. Gasps echoed in the courtroom. Judge Carver paused the playback. He turned to Mr. Wallace. Is this genuine? The lawyer stammered. Objection, hearsay. Judge Carver held up a hand. Overruled. The evidence is admissible. Jessica felt her heart soar. She'd done it. She turned the tables. The less extreme part of the hearing followed. Witnesses from Clearwater Solutions and the legal aid clinic spoke about Jessica's character and Mr. Wallace's pattern of misuse of policy. Olivia testified that Jessica was dependable and kind. Even one of Mr. Wallace's former assistants spoke up, saying he'd seen similar firings without cause. Then came the extreme moment. Judge Carver leaned forward, cleared his throat, and spoke firmly. Mr. Wallace, your baseless lawsuit and misapplication of company rules have caused undue harm to Ms. Smith. I award her $100,000 in damages and order you to issue a public apology to Ms. Smith and all staff for misuse of policy and defamation. The apology must run in the Falcon Heights Herald and your company newsletter. In that moment, Mr. Wallace's face went white. He looked like the furious tyrant who had fired Jessica, but now he was the one exposed. As the gavel came down, Jessica felt tears prickle her eyes. The room erupted in whispers and relieved smiles. Ms. Reed hugged her. Olivia grinned so wide Jessica thought her face might split. Laura patted her back proudly. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed as Jessica walked out, head high. She held the USB in her pocket like a trophy. The extreme event, her full vindication and public humbling of Mr. Wallace, was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, but it was hers. That night, Jessica sat by her small bowl on her bedside table. She thought about her journey, from the shame of being fired for 5 minutes to the triumph of proving her worth. She realized that real strength came from kindness, courage, and standing up for what is right. And in the local news the next day, the headline read, "Former employee wins $100,000 from CEO she punctured with truth." Jessica smiled. She had made him regret underestimating her.